Well, good morning. Welcome back. So good to be with everybody there watching today, and always good to be with my man Matt.
Absolutely. Good to see you, Bill.
Hey, buddy. Good to be back. I was away for a few days last week, and I was visiting a place I often joke about. You know, we're here in Pittsburgh, PA, and I always tell people that we're just like San Diego. Right? You know, our weather's great and sun's always shining, and that's not true. It's a lie. Here in Pittsburgh, we're not known for our sunshine and our beautiful weather, but San Diego is. And I had an opportunity to spend about 4 days there last week with a client, and had a great opportunity to catch up with some family. And it was funny. I was at this conference. I was telling Matt earlier. I was at this conference. We were on the 30th floor of this hotel out overlooking the San Diego Bayfront. And for those who are familiar, in San Diego, there's a naval installation. So we have a lot of Navy ships, and that's where the SEALs actually right across the bay. In Coronado is where the SEALs train, which is really cool.
Yep.
Right. And there's a Marine installation there. So my cousin Rocky and his wife Tiffany just retired from the Marine Corps and Tiffany from the Navy. They live there, so I got to spend time with them and looking at the water, and they were explaining things to me, which is really cool. And then we're on the 30th floor for this conference, and I'm looking out one day, and I see these massive Navy ships going up and down the bay. And I thought, that's pretty cool. And as I was watching these ships, not going very fast, but just, moving through the bay, I was struck by what they left behind. And I thought, what can we learn about leadership, and what do we learn about sales? And sales is nothing more than our impact on others, right? How do we impact others to have positive outcomes for them? And those positive outcomes usually help us. But I was wondering, what can we learn from that? And I saw the wake of these boats. And for those of us that have ever been in a boat, if you look behind, you see that wake, right? The churning up of the water. And one of the things Matt and I talk about in our coaching practice with leaders is knowing your wake, knowing what you're leaving behind, knowing the impact you're having on the environment. Yet we've never talked about that before about salespeople. And I thought, as salespeople, it's critical to know our wake as well. What's the impact we're having on these engagements, whether they're with prospects or clients? And I don't know if we spend enough time thinking about that.
Yeah, and when it comes to sales, you're talking about wake. So the first thing that popped in my mind is big wake, huge wake, lots of success. That's what you want. But you had an interesting point before. Are we that guy or gal that's, I'm not a big boater, so if I use incorrect terms, when you're by the harbor and there's no wake zones, you're explaining to me before, are we that person that's speeding by, that's not paying attention? All the boats in the harbor are bouncing up and down. People are falling overboard. And,
drinks are being spilled. Yeah.
Yeah, and thinking about that, I thought that was a great point, because in many circumstances, salespeople are the first representation of an organization. And it's not all about selling. Obviously, we want to get the sale. We want we want to win that work. But I think it's how we win it as well is as equally as important, and the impact that can have for everything else and all the rest of the organization that comes after us after a sale.
Yeah, great point. Right, when our wake is traumatic or dynamic, maybe when we're in the sales side. Are we setting up our team, our implementation team, for success? Or are we setting them up for failure? Because if they come in and people are distrusting because of the way we acted, has it been about us? Has it been too much energy when it's not appropriate? We're setting up our colleagues for potential failure. Conversely, when it's that gentle, boom, boom, the little gentle wave that lets somebody know we were there, that boat came through, but it's not offensive. We're setting people up for greater success afterwards.
Yeah, it's steady, it's confident, it's building trust, that second wake that you created. And I was thinking about salespeople often when we're talking about situations, or they're new in our practice as a client. there every so often there are those people that are like, oh, I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to come off. And in my mind, that's equating to, I don't want to leave a big wake or, be that person. And I go back to process is not only freeing, but I think the right sales process is a way to just have that smooth, calm wake, a process that uses project management, a process that has high integrity. It's never wrong to do the right thing, a process that's built around sales is something you do for someone, not to someone. All those isms that we always talk about. So thinking about that process, the best compliment that the people that we coach get early on in the coaching is, wow, that felt different. Wow, there was something about that, and whether they can put their finger on it or not, that just felt good. And so I think that right there, having a process is a great way to just have that smooth and steady wake.
Yeah, and that process that's others focused.
Yep.
That process that's meant to help someone else versus satisfying my own needs versus putting my quota above their needs, right? And, we had a situation this past week where one of our clients engaged a appointment setting company. So they're engaged with this company that cold calls and sets appointments for them and gives them leads. And the one gentleman who's going to be running this, he's in the financial services industry, not a sales guy. He's really built his career on being a technical professional. He said they had me consult with their one guy, their sales guy, about how I should handle these leads they give us. And he said, I didn't realize he was going to try to give me sales coaching. He said, I thought he was going to talk to me about how to manage these leads. And I said, oh, how'd that go? He said, well, can I tell you what the guy shared with me? I said, yeah. So he starts running through this, and it was a process very different from ours. And it was a process that relies on upfront contracts and, these types of things. And process that we tend to find to be very manipulative. And he said, I said, well, stop. As soon as he used the one word, I said, I know exactly what he said. Did he say these things? And he was like, yeah. He said, that's exactly what he said. I said, forget what he told you. I said, all you need to know is when you go into these meetings, you say, thank you for setting some time. I want to find out what's going on in your business that compelled you to take this meeting. I want to share all the information I can with you about our firm and how we think we could help you. Before we get started, what were you hoping we could accomplish together today? And it sets the stage for people to tell you the truth. It gives people permission to share versus me putting my needs ahead of them and saying, before we leave today, you're going to give me a yes or a no. And I can take no just as well as I can take yes. That doesn't feel good for most people to share, and it doesn't feel good for most people to hear. And that's having a bad wake. That's having that disruptive wake versus the influencing wake, which is what I think we want to have. So, we were on vacation a few weeks ago, and one of my little family traditions is I like to rent a pontoon boat. We go down through.
It's always a day I say a lot of prayers.
Yeah, that's right. You'd be amazed at what a good captain I am. One day a year.
He wears the hat and all.
The hat shrunk this year, by the way. My mother-in-law bought me the little white captain's cap, and it shrunk this year. But I think it shrunk. My head couldn't have got bigger, right? So, but we're driving this boat through the sound, and there's all these no-wake zones. And some people don't pay attention to that. They put their own needs ahead of that of normalcy or civility and what's good for others. And they're the people that are looked at very with great disdain by everybody else because they make life more difficult for another. But those that understand when to have a wake out in the sound when you're pulling people or trying to have some fun and disrupt things versus knowing how to act when you're in the controlled zone, we can have a very influential wake. We can literally lift all of those that we touch. We can lift up all of those we encounter. We don't have to have them going side to side in a confused manner. We don't have to have boats banging off each other in the harbor. We don't have to have people, like that scene in Caddyshack where Ted Knight's christening his boat and people were falling over the side and everything. Don't be that. We don't have to be that person. we can go out and we can have positive impact and influence on all those we encounter by knowing what we're doing with our process, by staying true to our process, by always giving people an opportunity to share freely, get their concerns out, and we connect dots to how the solutions help them. So, knowing our wake, know our wake as a leader, that impact that we have, know our wake as a salesperson, and I think we can help others much more than we create disruption.
And I know you're wrapping up.
No, not if you have something.
But
to share.
I wanted to throw one more thing in. We can create an internal wake as well as salespeople, because we interact with others. Maybe we interact with appointment setters. Maybe we interact post-sale with project managers or customer service or billing, legal. So what's the wake that we're bringing when someone within our organization is trying to do their job, whatever facet that is in the organization, and we're the salesperson, just get it done. I can't believe I have to deal with this. I should be out selling. What's going on? Not communicating, maybe not treating people with the dignity and respect that, they deserve. That's another opportunity to have a wake, hopefully a positive wake.
Yeah, and if that is your wake internally, how do you think those people in turn are going to communicate to your customers? Right? Because we always talk organizations that say the customer is king, but treat their people like peasants, never get that customer is king impact. The customer never feels like a king or queen when we treat our people like peasants. And if we're salespeople and we're not showing the same dignity, respect, and concern for our internal colleagues who deliver solutions, who deliver the experience, we're setting ourselves up for failure, and we're going to end up working a lot harder than we need to.
Yep. So anyway, sorry about that. But I think overall today is all about how do people feel after a sales encounter with us. So maybe a good question to ask yourself or ask someone that's a client.
It's a tough question to ask, maybe, right? And it's a tough one maybe for us to get honest answers about, but it's a great thing to reflect upon. And there's probably some triggers and clues we could look for to know how we're doing. If you find that people aren't calling you back, if you find that you're struggling to schedule or set follow-up appointments, if you find that you have disruptive relationships internally, that your colleagues and your team aren't always rushing to support you, those could be signs that you have a little bit of a disruptive wake. Some people refer to this as sharp elbows. You might have sharp elbows and be hurting a lot of the people that you're trying to work in close contact with. If that's the case, don't fret. You can change that. It takes a little patience, it takes a little intentionality, it takes a little concern. But let's just be mindful of how we treat others and how they feel after the encounter, both internally and externally. So thanks, Matt. Great points. We hope you guys have a great week. We hope you go out and have a pleasant journey for the week ahead, and that it's filled with pleasant, calm wakes and not a bunch of disruptive ones. Take care. God bless.